One.
All right. Thanks for coming out to my current legal and ethical issues PowerPoint presentation. We're going to get right into it. All right. The first issue we're going to deal with is religion issues, school-sponsored prayer. That's a very controversial topic in schools. Some people are for it, some people are against it. Courts have been consistent in holding that prayer sanctioned by public schools is a violation of the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. Therefore, school personnel must remain neutral in matters involving school prayer. Very, very touchy subject. Religious issues, continued silent prayer and meditation. In recent years, state legislators have made attempts to support state-sponsored voluntary prayer or meditation in public schools, but their efforts have been unsuccessful. In 1985, the United States Supreme Court ruled that a period of silent meditation and prayer in public schools is in violation of the First Amendment. Moving right along. Freedom of expression for students. School officials may restrict freedom of expression where there is evidence of material in violation of the school rule. So therefore, we here at an elementary school, we don't really encounter that type of problem. That's more on the high school level. But things like buttons, pamphlets, and other insignia may be banned if the message communicated is vulgar or obscene. Then we're going to go on to protests and demonstrations. They are considered forms of free expressions. Students are allowed to participate in these activities as long as they are peaceful, don't violate school rules, and don't result in the destruction of school policy. Moving right along. Freedom of expression for students. Continued. Censorship of student newspapers. Once again, different high schools have student newspapers. Courts generally hold that a school publication has the responsibility for providing a forum for students to express their ideas on a variety of topics for the school community. So people that's in journalism, taking journalism classes in high schools, they have the opportunity to write and kind of express their feelings and ideas to the school community. A limited review of school-sponsored publications may be permitted, but broad censorship is not. So I guess school officials, they can't control everything when it comes to student newspaper. They can look at a limited amount. School officials' commitment to sponsor a student publication should reflect a respect for personal rights associated with freedom of speech. So you have to respect students' freedom of speech. Search and seizure. The Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution provides protection of all citizens against unreasonable search and seizure. School officials need only reasonable suspicion to initiate a search. Now we're going to talk about what's reasonable suspicion. This is based on information received from students or another teacher that is considered liable, credible information. The courts have declared that in loco parentis, that means in place of parents, can't stand alone without reasonable suspicion. Okay. Moving right along, the due process consists of two essential aspects, procedural and substantive. Students as citizens are entitled to rights associated with both. Procedural due process requires that certain legal procedures be followed to ensure fundamental fairness and to avoid arbitrary and capricious actions by school officials. Substantive due process suggests that when a student's right is restricted, a valid reason must be established to justify such restriction, and the actual means employed to deny the student's right must be reasonably calculated. So that's something that our principals here, Ms. Cheatham and Mr. McLeod, they really have to be careful with these two type of aspects. Moving right along to liability and student records. School districts and schools should have legally defensible policies and procedures consistent with the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Parents or legal guardians have the right to inspect their child's records at any time. Somebody come up here, a parent of a student or a legal guardian, they want to see their records, they they can do so at any time. Defamation and liability applies to the misuse of student records. And that's something we as teachers, we have to be mindful of, and other school officials. There are two types of defamation. Slander, that's oral defamation, when school personnel is inadvertently, when they inadvertently communicate sensitive information in a student's file to someone that does not need to be informed. That's just, I guess that's just another word for gossiping. Okay, that's slander, oral defamation. You know, telling another teacher or somebody out in the community about something that's sensitive in a student's file. Libel, this is written defamation. Okay, school officials should refrain from including damaging information in a student's file that have no basis. So just writing something with nothing to back it up, that is being libel, and that is a type of defamation. Individuals with disabilities. Individuals with disabilities are protected by 3 federal statutes: IDEIA of 2004, ADA of 1990, it was also amended in 2008, and Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Section 504. Response to intervention, we all are familiar with this, a method of academic intervention designed for early, effective assistance to children who are having difficulty learning. An individualized educational plan must be designed for each child with disabilities. All right. Mississippi Educator Code of Ethics. This is something that we should abide by as educators in the state of Mississippi. An educator should display professional conduct at all times. Okay. Should be found trustworthy. Avoid unlawful acts. An educator should refrain from the use of alcohol and or tobacco during the course of professional practice, and should never use illegal, unauthorized drugs. Okay? Shall not knowingly misappropriate funds. Sometimes, you know, we have to handle money with kids. They give us money, like today, picture day. They give us money, teachers, classroom teachers, and we have to make sure that we handle those funds correctly and make sure that they go, the funds go where they need to go. Uphold their integrity. Mr. T always talk about that. As far as in the school system, teachers need to have a certain level of integrity at all times. Maintain a high level of confidentiality. Things that doesn't need to be said, we need to keep it to ourselves, keep that confidential. Confidential information needs to stay with us. And that's it. Thank you for attending my PowerPoint presentation.